Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're being joined by Bart, and he will be talking about the concept of total discomfort. The webinar will start soon. We're just waiting for people to join us. As you may know, my name is Patricia White, and I'm a project officer with the EAPC. And I'm joined by our in-house technical expert, Guillermo. Thank you very much. And we're delighted that you all have joined us today. Once the webinar starts and the presentation, you can actually increase the size of the slides, and there's even a button where you can translate the text on the slides into other languages. Just for your information, this webinar is being recorded. It will be available on the NursEduPal IMPACT website in the coming weeks, and it'll be freely accessible for you to see. As an attendee at the webinar, you're not on video, so we can't see you and we can't hear you, but we would really like to engage with you. And as you may know, if you've been to our webinar before, we want you to start using the chat button from the very beginning. So I want to ask you now to type in where in the world you're joining us from. It will get you used to using the chat button, and we can see from the different parts of the world where people are joining us. That's great. I think some of you have found it already. This is great. Thanks. So as you can see, we have a wide variety of people joining us from all over the world. Anyone who attends the live webinar can have a certificate of attendance. And at the end of the webinar, I will post a QR code where you can download the certificate of attendance. And also we have an evaluation form that we'd like you to complete. All that's left for me is to hand you over to Danny, who will be chairing the webinar, and to say thank you for joining us, and we wish you the best experience while you're watching the webinar, and remember that it will be recorded and available in the coming weeks. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to see you for this fourth session in the second NursEduPal IMPACT teaching webinar series. As you may know by now, the second series of webinars focuses on topics important for clinical leadership in palliative care. We hope that our webinars can help you to become more confident in your palliative care approach. I am Dani Verreken. I'm the coordinator of the NursEduPal IMPACT project and the research coordinator at the School of Nursing of West University of Applied Sciences in Bruges, Belgium, together with my colleague Veerle Coupé. Also today, I would like to remind you that the content we share in our webinar series is designed for generalist healthcare providers, not for specialists in palliative care. As Patricia mentioned, the recordings of all sessions, along with the presentation slides, will be made available on our project website. I would invite you to go and take a look already at our resource page because you will find a lot of interesting materials there. For now, those materials are only available in English, but in the near future, they will also be offered in Romanian, Finnish, and Flemish. The webinars, presentation slides, course manuals, e-courses, and impact tools all together are part of our commitment to support you on your path towards becoming a palliative care influencer. I have the pleasure today of introducing our speaker, Bart van Oeteren. Bart is a geriatric nurse and a palliative care expert. He gained most of his work experience in various positions in elderly care, home care, and palliative care. Bart combines theoretical knowledge with a wealth of practical experience to captivate an audience on diverse palliative care topics. Specialized as a pain nurse and fascinated by the impact of the interplay between physical, spiritual, psychological, and social aspects on patients' sense of being, Bart was our logical go-to for this webinar on the concept of total discomfort. Bart, we're really happy to have you with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will open the presentation. I think it's gone.
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, but I can't.
Oh,
Okay, that's better. So, total discomfort, where does it come from? Well, the source of this idea, and it's not my idea to be honest, is an idea where I was pretty much a fan of. Cicely Saunders, one of the founders of palliative care, launched years ago the total pain concept. And she told us that pain is not only the pain, there's a lot more to it. And in one of my contacts with patients, I really experienced it in the strongest way about pain. So there was a lady, let's call her Mary for the story. And yeah, I had seen her a few times and everything was going pretty much well with her, but she wasn't at the end of her life. And one morning she called me, Bart, it's not going well with me. You need to come immediately. I'm in such pain. I went to her house. I found her in huge pain. She was lying down, pale, silent. I shook her hand and said, it's not going well. And then she told me, no, no, the pain is unbearable. And she started talking to me, talking about her life, talking about her worries, talking about her family, about her friends, about everything. And after 10 minutes, yeah, she was sitting upright again. And she kept on telling me things. After 20 minutes, said, oh my God, I'm a bit rude today. I haven't offered you any coffee yet. And a while later in the conversation, I said, but we haven't talked about any pain yet. And she said, oh, Bart, I'm so happy that you're here listening to me. I will manage again. There's no medication needed. And it happened a few times. And when she was at the end, I was sitting at her bed. It never happens a lot, but that time it happened. So she was comfortably and she was feeling safe and she died in me. So that made me a huge fan of the total pain concept because pain is not only physical pain, it has a lot of dimensions. That was a story that in fact tells everything yet about the idea that they handed me about total discomfort. So the webinar on total discomfort answers the following questions. What is it? I will try to explain the concept of total discomfort, and we recognize the interaction between physical, psychological, social, and spiritual dimension. And then, of course, we will ask why. Why is it important to be mindful of total discomfort? I will try to describe how a holistic focus on comfort can contribute to the quality of life of individuals with life-limited conditions. And now the question is, who is involved in alleviating total discomfort? We definitely are, we identify the professionals involved in the alleviating total discomfort and describe the role of interdisciplinary collaboration in delivering holistic care, including input from medical, from nursing, from psychological and spiritual caregivers, or people that are just being near with them as humans with a warm heart. And how? How can we measure that total discomfort? I will try to describe some different ways to assess total discomfort and critically reflect on the limitations of one-dimensional pain scales in capturing a complex suffering. Let's introduce our patient that will be along the whole story. That's Jeff. Jeff is a 63-year-old man who has been diagnosed with bladder cancer. His story will be the common thread through the whole presentation of total discomfort. Let's see, it's bladder cancer. And if we go back to the former webinars, there's not so difficult question, but what disease trajectory of these three that are projected now are you recognizing? I'm waiting for some answers in the chat, please.
I'll keep my eye on the chat for you, Bart.
Thank you.
For now, no answer.
Yeah. Okay, then in the meantime, I think I will proceed. At the moment of the diagnosis of bladder cancer, Jeff is here in the chronic stage. So how will he be treated? He will be treated with a big focus on cure, of course, but already right now, as you see on the diagram, we should be so that open to speak about Jeff about his wishes, his doubts, his questions, and about what is important for him. And if you watch that, that's an early start of palliative care. Okay, time goes fast. And Jeff is going through a medical roller coaster. We're 1 year later. 1 year after his diagnosis with bladder cancer, he went through the full medical treadmill. Numerous tests, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and surgeries, some different ones. Throughout this treatment, Jeff often was questioning, is it really necessary to do all of this? And yesterday he got some really bad news. There is nothing more we can do, said the oncologist. And 6 months after his last treatment, Jeff was told there is nothing more we can do. The news didn't sink in. In disbelief, he asked his home care nurse, what do they mean? Nothing more to do. They are still going to help me, aren't they? That was his question. And his situation wasn't easy because Jeff is a single man. He's looked after by his neighbor, that's a close friend. There are some distant family members, and there's a dedicated home care team. But that's not really the strongest position to be in as an ill person. Okay, so we started the disease trajectory here at the beginning of a diagnosis of a cancer. But 1 year later, we're a bit further already. And once again, I will ask you, which disease trajectory do you recognize? Answer in the chat, please.
We have end-of-life oncological.
Yeah, so that's right. It's an oncological situation that's yeah, really going bad for the moment. So it means we're in the situation of palliative care and terminal care for Jeff. As you can see here. That's only 1 year after a medical roller coaster. Focus that started with cure, later there was the evolution to palliative care, and the form for the moment, I think we may say he's in terminal care. And then there's a more difficult question to you. I'm not afraid of dying, but I don't want to suffer. Jeff told this to his general practitioner. But I was wondering, what does he mean by that? So please use the chat to let me know what you think Jeff means with I don't want to suffer and I'm not afraid of dying.
You get treatment for comfort.
Anyone
We're a bit
else?
shy today. Anxiety for suffering.
That's right.
Not to be alone. Leave his family in peace. He's not afraid of death, but afraid for painful dying. Peace. So I think people have a good idea.
Yeah. A lot of different reactions, but in fact, they all could be very much right. So in palliative care, we take the focus on quality of life for those who are seriously ill and can't be cured. Quality life is different for everyone. So you can find more information about that in advanced care planning. So thus comfort and prevention and control of symptoms will also be individually different. Some people will say, I don't want to feel any pain. Other people will ask to be able to do some nice things out of their bed with people and in environments that are not home. So, for the record, discomfort we define as a lack of comfort which reduces quality of life. And if we mean total discomfort, it indicates that comfort is about more than just the absence of pain and or other symptoms that bother. Besides the physical dimension on quality of life, there is also a social, the psychological, and the spiritual dimensions, and they are at least as important. The four dimensions affect each other. It's important to understand that it involves much more than just physical pain. The relationship of these dimensions determines total discomfort and is represented by the circle of the diagram. When talking about total discomfort, there are four dimensions to consider that influence each other. Okay, let's go back to Jeff to make that point a bit more clear. The devastating news of his incurable illness was followed by several physical complaints. Jeff experiences a severe pain when he urinates and this dominates his life. Things weren't working properly down here, but now I can't even touch anything without going to the roof, he says. I think that's a pretty firm statement that he makes there. So to help him out, a suprapubic catheter is placed, but the pain on contact with his private parts remains. A pain patch is started for the pain, and Jeff said, and this is supposed to help me. He asked that in disbelief. And in fact, the patch brings some relief, but Jeff now also suffers from nausea on top of all the rest. So it helps, but it creates a new problem that's bothering him. Okay. The physical suffering. Let's talk about that. It includes all the symptoms caused by the disease itself or by the treatment that reduces comfort. Physical suffering can include the physical pain, but also fatigue, nausea, constipation, the hiccups. It's sounding simple to have hiccups, but it can be very annoying if it continues to go on. Sleeping problems oftenly are mentioned, and there's a lot more to say about. These symptoms in turn can affect psychological, social, and spiritual well-being. And that in addition to pain and other symptoms, the mobility of patients and the way they can communicate are also part of the physical dimension. For example, comfort can be improved by choosing appropriate clothing and incontinence products, or by making appropriate use of aids such as a hoist. For more information, see the module Symptoms in Palliative Care. Let's go back to Jeff. The realization that he's terminally ill has really hit Jeff, but he doesn't want it, and he doesn't accept it, and he won't accept it. Jeff feels sad, he feels helpless. There's really nothing more they can do. He keeps on asking. At the same time, he's very anxious about what lies ahead, worried about what will happen. Will the pain get worse? Will he suffer more? And what about the end of life that is coming? We're in the phase of psychological suffering. First, fear in various forms belongs to the psychological dimension. These include fear of pain, the loss of control, dependence on others, and impending death. Anxiety can also be related to uncertainty about what will happen and how the illness will progress. I think it's pretty understandable so far. In addition, many people of the in the palliative care experience feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and despair. And what I've learned in real life is that you never should take someone's hope away, not by telling their stories that are not true, but giving them hope about things that are real and that still are there. But this combination of problems can arise a depression from confronting morality, the loss of functions and roles, and the impact of the disease on one's own life and that of the loved ones. Finally, mourning is a normal response to loss. Patients mourn the losses they experience, such as loss of health, independence, future plans, and sometimes even these of identity. The question arises, who am I in this situation? What is there for me? Okay, another back to Jeff. And what does he say? He says, with this bag on my leg and this bucket for vomit, I don't go out anymore. What a sight. He stays inside more and more. And because of his physical problems, his social contacts are vanishing. And he receives fewer visitors. Jeff's son that years ago broke off all contacts with him. And well, Jeff isn't sure if he wants to try to reconnect now. With no active family ties, he's deeply worried about his financial situation and who will arrange and pay for his funeral. So what do we see is happening here? Well, we're in the social dimension. The disease can change the dynamics within families and friendships very much. Patients often become more dependent on their loved ones. The pressure to provide support can be tough on family members and friends, leading to tensions and conflicts. Patients may feel that they are losing their social roles and identities, for example, as employee, as parent, as partner, or as a good friend. These loss can contribute to feeling of meaninglessness. Who am I? What am I still doing here? So roles within the family can also shift. For example, when a parent becomes ill and is no longer able to care for the children, or when a partner has to take the role of the carer, which he never did. And as these roles change, there can be a lot of social suffering for both the patient and the loved ones. The changes in the ability to carry out daily activities and responsibilities can have a major impact on the care recipients' self-image and dignity. Due to these physical limitations, through fatigue or to hospitalization, patients are less able to attend social activities or maintain contact with a social network. This can lead to feelings of loneliness and social isolation. Stigma, lack of understanding about the disease can contribute to isolation with friends and acquaintances, that not knowing how to react to or avoiding the sick person. Open and effective communication about illness, the prognosis, and the care wishes can be very much difficult from person to person. Discussing difficult topics such as death and the future is often difficult, but misunderstandings and/or poor communication can lead to frustrations and feeling of not being understood. Informal carers can experience a significant care burden, both emotionally and physically. The responsibility of caring for a seriously ill loved one can lead to exhaustion, to stress, and health problems in the loved ones themselves. The need for support and respite for informal carers is often great, but it's not always recognized or adequately facilitated. The cost of medical treatment and care can put financial pressure on the patient and on the patient's family. This can lead to additional stress and worries, especially if its work and incomes are lost due to the illness. Financial worries can also affect social relationships and availability of resources for social activities. In case someone wants to react to it, don't hesitate. The chat is always open. And in the meantime, I will go back to Jeff. This morning, Jeff said to the home care nurse, "It's really not fair that this is happening to me. I really wanted to live still for a very long time." And in fact, Jeff is angry. And his feeling of being treated unfair by life, he also wonders why God doesn't help him. At the same time, Jeff still clings for hope. It's going to be all right. I feel I have a long time ahead of me, he tells to the home care nurse. So there's some contradiction in his reaction. And these contradictions are about the spiritual dimension. The patients may struggle with feelings of meaninglessness, especially when their illness confronts them with their mortality. Questions such as, "Why me?" and "What is the meaning of my life now?" often arise. These existential crises can lead to deep inner pain and a sense of loss of purpose and meaning. Many patients also experience feelings of guilt and regret about things they did or they didn't do. These feelings of guilt and regret can be intensified by approaching death, as time to ask for forgiveness or put things right is limited. Uncertainty about what happens after death can be a source of great anxiety and spiritual pain. Patients may fear the unknown, pain and suffering during dying, or the possible consequences of their life after death. For patients with a religious background, illness may affect their relationship with God or a higher power. They may feel abandoned by their God, struggle with questions about justice, about the presence of evil, or struggle to maintain their faith in times of suffering. Patients may mourn the future. They had plans and they had goals which they hope to achieve. This loss of hope can lead to a deep spiritual pain, and it robs them of the sense that their life are having direction and meaning. Finally, many patients worry about the well-being of their loved ones after death. Imagine a young mother with children uh, that she can't let go because they are too young to be on their own. So the spiritual pain as they feel this can cause the spiritual pain as these people feel responsible for leaving their loved ones behind in grief and in uncertainty. It's like I'm letting them down, and that's a horrible thing to deal with. So, a few questions. And if you have to indicate your pain from 0 to 10, then the question of the answer could be, it hurts everywhere and my heart hurts the most. Everything feels awkward, everything hurts, I can't put a number on it. Some sayings. And one of the most personal memories that I have was one of my patients in the week before Christmas. She was in a terrible pain and she also always had avoided to accept medication to treat the pain. But one day I could convince her to let me help her with medication. She told me a lot of things. I started some medication with a general practitioner, and the day after I went back to the house to ask her how it had been. You know what she asked me, or she answered me? Well, it was wonderful. She said, Bart, your medications are helping me, but you know what helped me most of all? And she looked at her husband, winked an eye, and she said, the hug you gave me after Bart left that night. So it could count as a Christmas story. And it tells everything about total discomfort and total pain. And now, how can we measure what can't be measured? Do you know any instruments that measure total discomfort? I think most of you will answer that question with a no. Well, there are some things, yeah. USD 3D.
USD 3D, Sabine
Yeah.
says. Symptomendagboek, driedimensionaal.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with that.
It's a diary of symptoms in all dimensions of palliative care.
That sounds a very interesting form. I would be I would think it's very nice to see that instrument once. What we know here is called the distress thermometer. It could be a tool for it. It's a validated screening instrument that will concise questionnaire that can be filled by the user himself. This creates an overview of the problems and questions the carer is facing and he or she wants to discuss. By using this burden meter, there are a number of starting points to begin the conversation about total discomfort and the 4 dimensions of suffering. When the patient has only limited communication abilities, for example, due to aphasia, advanced dementia, or intellectual disability, and it's therefore not possible to measure total discomfort with the distress thermometer, pain can be estimated and assessed on the 3 categories of other observation scales. Face and behavior when with 10 expressions of pain. Then another one is resistance and defenses with 6 expressions of pain, And another one is social emotional mood with 8 expressions of pain. These are visual scales, for instance, that can help a caretaker to evaluate this discomfort. What I have been doing here in this presentation today is in fact a plea to a holistic care in a multidisciplinary approach. Addressing the 4 dimensions of total discomfort is a holistic approach. Holistic care is an approach to healthcare that considers the patient as a whole, taking into account of physical, psychological, social, and spiritual aspects of well-being, rather than focusing solely on treating symptoms or diseases. Holistic care seeks to recognize and treat the full spectrum of the human experience. A multidisciplinary approach is needed when supporting patients with palliative care needs. The involvement of different healthcare providers, such as doctors, nurses, psychologists, social workers, psychotherapists, spiritual counselors, promotes the holistic management of suffering. I think that's a lot that I told for today. And in fact, I would add something more, because I have a dream that there will be a time that we will never have to talk about palliative care as the holistic care anymore, that it will be a part of everything in healthcare that exists, in elderly care, in home care, in the care of patients in hospitals. The holistic approach could be a huge improvement of what we are doing already. I believe this is the end of my story for today. I have been talking a lot, and I assume there will be some questions, so feel free to send the questions around.
A lot of applauses and congratulations, but no questions yet, Bart.
It's silent on that side, but thanks for the compliments. Yeah.
We have a question from Sabine.
Yeah.
What is the difference with the total pain concept?
Well, in fact, I could say that the total pain concept is an illustration of the total discomfort concept. It's part of it. I hope that's a sufficient answer.
Thank you. Yes, so I think Sabine is happy with your answer.
Can I join the conversation for just a moment, Bart?
Of course.
You're welcome. Because you are the creative person for this concept.
Yeah, I can say that we created the total discomfort concept. It's so that when Cicely Saunders made the total pain concept, I think it was in the early stages about research about palliative care and what was done, and she did a lot of research and she started with pain. But now we know that there are a lot of other different symptoms that also distress the patients. That's why we said let's not focus only on the pain and make it total pain, but total discomfort, because there's a lot of other things that distress the patients and that also need a holistic approach.
So well, I would like to thank you very much for that idea. It's something I needed.
Okay. If we have no more questions, I hand over the screen back to Patricia. So maybe Bart, you could stop sharing.
Yeah.
Because Patricia always has a couple of ending notes.
Thank you. And thank you, Bart, for that. And I really like your final comments about your wish being that there will be a time when we don't need to speak about separately about palliative care, that the norm is this holistic total care. Really, really nice. Thank you. So we just would like to, as we end this seminar, I just wanted to, sorry, I just need to skip to the final slides so that you know that this is part of a series. And as I just put into the chat there, that we have our next one is on Friday, and that there is a link there for you to register for that. I will just put this here so that you can see this is also the same link, but also as a QR code. So you're very welcome, and we would be delighted to see you on Friday when Dennis will be talking about the dying phase and saying a final farewell. And again, this webinar will be recorded and available if you cannot make it on Friday. And finally, we would like to say that we will have the certificate of attendance and the evaluation form available for you. So all that leaves for me to say is to thank you, Danny, again for chairing so well, to Bart for your really, really insightful and bringing this important concept to a wider audience, and to Virla as well. And thank you to Guillermo for his support. But most of all, thanks to all of you for attending, because without you, we wouldn't have this webinar. I'll leave this slide up for you in case you want to need a minute just to download the details for the certificate of attendance and also for our evaluation form, which we would like you to complete. Thank you very much for your attention.
Oké, ik wacht even.
Thank you, everyone. We still have people in the room, so I will keep this slide just and to keep the chat open in case anyone still wants to get any of the details that were posted. Thanks.